All right, welcome back to the Ekkocast. We have a special guest today, Kenan Malloy, fellow Canadian, and I've known you on socials for about 2 years now, but how long have you actually been in the social media sphere for?
So on Instagram, I've been posting for, I want to say since early 2020-ish, but on TikTok, it's been maybe about 16 months or so, or I believe just over a year.
In my opinion, TikTok is your platform.
I think so too.
Yeah, like when I saw your stuff on TikTok, I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly the type of
short form to the point. Yeah,
explain what you need to, get it all out there in 40 seconds to a minute, just like giving people the topics that they need to know the most about. Like there was a lot of your stuff is how I originally started on TikTok.
Yeah,
because I was like, how am I gonna get myself to make tons of videos? And I was like, well, I'll just answer comments.
It's free, right? You don't really have to think of ideas because the ideas come to you. You just answer questions and then provide the knowledge, right? And then
it's beautiful because you develop that relationship with your audience because they're actually getting the value that they are looking for. No,
I think that's the niche, right? Kind of separates myself from a lot of other creators.
No, it's been really cool to watch you rise up because I'm like, okay, I think I discovered you when you were at like 4,000-ish followers, and now what do you got right now?
Closing in on 90. I think it's like 87, something like that. So
get him to that 100K mark. He deserves it.
We need it.
No, but your journey's been great to watch, man. But today we're going to be talking about basically my goal behind this podcast is Kenan is a very, very knowledgeable creator in what we would call the science-based lifting sphere. And I would say that his overall knowledge and the stuff that he's really good at is practical, actionable takeaways. So I don't want us to just talk about mechanisms. I want to talk about the stuff that's actually going to be applicable to your overall training, dieting, whatever else, and get you guys to actually be making better results out of the episode.
Absolutely.
So first question, like before we get into the topics of like bulking, maintaining, frequency, all that stuff, how did you actually get into science-based lifting in the first place?
So I've been lifting for, I want to say 11-ish years now. I started when I was 17. I'm going to be 29 in May. It's almost 12 years actually. And I've always wanted to know like how things work specifically. And so I've always done a deep dive. In school, I wasn't really the biggest nerd, to be honest. So that's kind of weird. But when I went to university, I took 2 years of kinesiology, and that kind of expanded my knowledge a bit, especially with taking anatomy classes, learning about the musculoskeletal system and things like that. So I think genuinely just wanting to understand how things work. I mean, Trained by JP was one of my biggest inspirations, like when I first started lifting. And then he obviously has a master's in exercise physiology. So I always kind of wanted to blend the meathead with the actual knowledge of what's happening underneath, right?
Sure. No, how long have you been out of school now then?
Oh, a long time. I think it's been 7 years or something like that.
Would you say that the majority of your knowledge came post-grad or did you get a lot during and now it's just been slowly accumulating over time?
So I don't have a degree. I only took 2 years of kinesiology. I think I took 2 years of business. Didn't really like it because I was kind of trying to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life, really. And then after that, obviously I was big into fitness. So then I took 2 years of kinesiology, and then going anatomy class and things like that, it kind of sat with me a lot. So after that, I was doing personal training a lot and branched out into online coaching. And then with online coaching, to try to separate yourself, you always have to continue education and things like that. So it's always just been like that.
Nice. Well, before we get into specific topics, I was just curious because everybody has a different answer on this. What do you think that science-based lifting actually means? Because there are people who have completely different definitions from each other.
Well, it depends. Like there's going to be science-based lifting and then evidence-based lifting, right? And then science-based lifting, you can look at it from 100 different avenues. It's mainly going to be theory and stuff like that, depending on who you ask. And then evidence-based lifting could be taking outcomes for what they are at face value and then applying that to your training. So I think that you could put yourself anywhere on the spectrum. I like to be somewhat in the middle. Obviously, my content's more so theoretical. And so I like to talk about the theory because I find that interesting. But when it comes to how I program for myself and for clients and stuff like that, I like to meet in the middle.
Yeah, I agree, because I've always said to people, because they'll say, oh, well, you're not truly science-based because you don't agree with X.
Oh,
And the way that I've always viewed it is, okay, you got the spectrum of bro, like just total bro,
Yeah.
to total science. And I would say that I'm somewhere along that spectrum leaning towards the science.
Yeah.
But I like some of the bro tendencies too.
Absolutely.
And then there's other people who are a little bit more bro-y with a little bit more science. Where do you think you would place yourself if you had to go 10 out of 10, like total science, geek nerd, versus 0 being just total bro who cares about any literature?
Definitely more so on the science for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like a lot of my stuff is very theoretical in nature. So in the grand scheme of things, the most important thing is obviously going to be like adherence, consistency, and effort. And I feel like both the bros and the science-based nerds can both agree on that. But it just comes down to like exercise selection, programming, things like that kind of differ between the two.
Do you think that the majority of people who label themselves as science-based, because you use the term evidence-based, do you think the majority of those people would be evidence-based people, or are they more creator-based people where they take and they get all of their ideas from somebody else and aren't necessarily looking at the evidence themselves?
Well, I feel like science-based lifting is kind of like a trend, right? So like you said, creator-based lifting. I'm pretty sure I just saw a post today talking about how like preacher curls are brachialis and not a bicep exercise anymore. Like I think that's ridiculous. Like I could see the idea and what they're trying to pull from and extrapolate from that specific data, but it's just you're not really going to know, and the differences are going to be so minute that it really just does not matter, and it's not going to be worth stressing about and having these arguments and trying to like die on a specific hill. You know what I mean?
So would you agree that science-based lifting in general does tend to get a little bit too dogmatic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, there's been because I got asked the other day, they said, do you think science-based lifting is underrated or overrated? And you're supposed to give a one-word answer.
I think I saw that. That was with
and Casey.
Yeah, I saw that.
I couldn't help myself because I said overrated,
right?
but I felt like I had to give an explanation. I'm like, before, when people were just totally broing out, had no idea what anything was, I would say it was underrated. But now when people are going so far into things for things that probably arguably might not even make a difference, I'm like, okay, in that case, it would be overrated.
Absolutely. I think it's overrated too, in all honesty, which might come as a
crazy. Like I said, biting the hands that feed us.
It might come as a shock, but
all right. So before we get into lifting topics specifically, because this topic seems to be, I've seen a decent amount of your content recently talking over this topic. I don't know why it's been coming back up more recently. Main gaining, bulking, cutting. Just give me a layout of your overall views, because there are some people that say, oh, you must bulk in order to gain muscle. There are other people that say, okay, well, no, you can just maintain your entire way. Just give me a little bit of an insight into the way that you view things.
Well, it first comes down to redefining maintenance. And I feel like we've discussed this about plenty of times, but if you look at maintenance as the amount of calories needed to maintain your current body weight and not body fat percentage, you get into the certain situations where you have these unique scenarios where, for instance, say you consume more sodium and you hold on to more water and then your weight goes up. Does that mean you're in a surplus? And, say you drop some weight because of X. Does that mean you're in a deficit? So I think that maintenance has to do with body fat percentage. And then that's why people kind of take the idea of main gaining as, oh, that's impossible. Like, how am I supposed to get from 150 pounds to 180 pounds through just muscle if I'm just maintaining my weight? It's not maintaining your weight. You're maintaining your body fat percentage. Your body fat is going to have to increase, but so will your muscle. And that, you know what I mean?
No, that's honestly, that's the exact way I view it too.
Yeah.
And often one of the things that people don't realize, because they're so used to bulking phases where you gain weight very quickly, is
we've all done it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Every single one of us has been through a bulk that's gotten a little bit extreme.
Absolutely. I was 230 at one point.
You got to 230?
Yeah, I was 230.
Dude.
That was the 6-plate stiff leg. I can't do that now, but
I think I saw a picture of you when you said you were at your heaviest. You still had an overall decent appearance.
People say that, but I don't know.
Yeah, because like I feel like because the heaviest I've ever been was 212.
Yeah.
Right. And when I got to 212, unless I was in the perfect lighting, like I legitimately looked sloppy.
Yeah.
So like, I think I don't know. Maybe you just hold your weight really well. Or
I'm a little bit taller. I'm 6 feet, so I think like when you're that much taller, you can hold a little bit more weight. But I don't know. I personally like I'm about 178, 180 pounds now. Not as strong as I was, but I like the way that I look now, so I'm happy with it.
How much are you weighing right now?
Like 178, 180.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, then there's a good practical application that we can talk about for you, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you guys can apply this to your own scenarios as necessary. For you, how would you view the way that you eat relative for the next little while if your goal is to maximize muscle growth for yourself?
So first, it would be establishing maintenance calories, which obviously you're going to have to know your total daily energy expenditure. You're going to have to know how many steps you walk, things like that. Now, people go off into the weeds and become super neurotic with trying to calculate every small, tiny little detail. Oh, I did 5K incline steps and 10K flat, so I can eat this many calories. In my opinion, it's best to look at it from like a weekly perspective and say, okay, here's how many calories you're going to eat across the week, and then just track your weight, your weight each week, rather than trying to be so hyper specific and fluctuate your calories day by day. I just don't think that's ideal. Or
I agree.
Yeah.
No, if you try to base it off of every single individual day, well, hey, today I did a little bit more activity, so maybe I should eat 2,800 versus 2,500.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah, you get so pedantic over things.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a big part of the reason why the bulking versus cutting versus main gaining topic came up was because people were like, well, you don't know exactly how much you're expending on a day-to-day basis.
But it just doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we build muscle at grams at a time, and it's just going to take so long that people think that, okay, if I gain 2 pounds a week and then all of a sudden in a month they're 8 pounds up and their lifts have gone up, that just equates to more muscle growth. But it's like, is it because more muscle growth, or is it because your leverage has changed and things like that, right?
Well, this brings me to an interesting conversation, because a lot of the reason that I think personally, the reason that people have been like, oh, bulking is the way to go, bulking is the way to go. And when I say bulking, I'm not referring to what he's referring to, which is putting on body fat to keep yourself the same body fat percentage as your muscle rises. But I'm talking more the traditional try to gain X amount of weight over
for
X.
gaining weight, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what happened was, and part of the reason why people got very confused by this was in the early stages of lifting, you gain weight very quickly.
Absolutely.
Because you're, one, uptaking more glycogen, more water to go along with your muscle tissue.
Yeah.
So like I remember the first time that I started lifting, I was actually eating below maintenance.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wanted to get leaner. And I started lifting and I gained weight. And I was so confused by it because I could see in the mirror that I was leaner.
Yeah.
And so what happens a lot of the time with newbie lifters is they start lifting, they start gaining weight, and they gain weight at X rate, and they assume that meant that they were in a surplus of X amount because they're not viewing the tissues the same way.
Absolutely. And that's why when you look at certain models like Alan Aragon or Lyle McDonald, you can see that there's going to be that curve that as the longer that you lift, the less weight that you should be gaining each month, et cetera, right? Because you're going to be able to only grow certain fibers, less fibers. So you need to equate the calories accordingly.
I spent almost because like before I would go through traditional, okay, I need to gain half a pound per week type protocols. And I would try and build my way up. My last off season, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to stay under 200 pounds, right? Like I know I have enough body fat on me. My hormones are functioning well. My lifts are going great.
And you just focus on progressing in the gym without such a fixation on the scale.
And then I got to start my prep off at 195 pounds and not ridiculously fat and fluffy.
And now you're looking insane.
And it just makes things easier.
It does. But I feel like there's a lot of bros that are now coming to that idea. Like for what I mentioned before about being a fan of Jordan Peters, now you'll see him kind of, feeling that that's a plausibility to be able to stay at the same body fat percentage and just pace yourself, right? I still now as a coach, because there's obviously going to be certain psychological benefits of having a certain goal, like pushing towards something, because obviously when you're in a cut, you have this end goal of I'm trying to get to X% body fat or X weight to look a certain way. But when you're gaining, it's kind of a little bit muddy. It takes a
Yes.
while. There isn't like a concrete goal. So as a coach, I do like to prescribe a certain rate of gain, and that's going to differ depending on the advancement of the individual, right?
I agree. So what I typically do with my clients is if we've truly established what their overall amount is that they need to just purely maintain their weight, right? Which can take time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes some time to get that data to
For
figure
sure.
out.
2, 3, 4 weeks even sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But once you figure that out, a lot of times what I'll do with my clients is I'll take a look at how many years they've been lifting, how many years they've been lifting well.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you know what? Over the course of the next 12 months, let's say you did everything perfectly.
Yeah.
If you were capable of gaining 6 pounds of muscle, then us gaining at a rate of more than 2 pounds in a month
Exactly.
just does not make sense.
Exactly.
So-
And when you put it in that perspective, I feel like it opens their eyes to be like, okay, that makes sense. Let me just focus on progressing in the gym. I also made a video talking about you could like the way that you look and still maximize progress. A lot of people put bulking with, being sloppy, getting overly fat, and then that leads to, mental issues. You don't like the way you look, and that could lead to less motivation. And you know what I'm saying?
And even simple things like you get to a point where you're getting a little bit fluffy and you're just constantly having this desire of, now I should cut.
The zigzag.
Now I should cut.
Yeah.
I have people that they'll talk to me. They'll say, "Hey, should I do a mini cut?" And I'm just like, "Okay, well, are you happy with your body fat percentage?" No.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, maybe it might make sense to do it this time, but what did you do for the last 6 months? What did you do for the last 8 months? They're like, oh, well, I gained at like a pound a week. I'm like, well, no wonder you're not happy with the way you look right now.
That's another thing too, is the obsession with body fat percentage, the obsession with knowing what body fat percentage you are, even though nobody's going to be able to accurately tell you. I know people will tag TNF, people tag Lizzo
All the time.
the classic. And sure, like you guys have educated eyes. You've seen plenty of different physiques and different lighting, different scenarios. So you're going to have like a better idea than the average person. But at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, like, are you happy with your level of leanness? Are you happy with what you see in the mirror? And then if the answer is yes, then why do you need to diet, right?
Right. And the only times I ever don't take that mentality is if a person is so warped in their perception, where that person is now 8%, 9% body fat, and they're like, I look fat.
Everybody's warped. Everybody overestimates how much muscle they have and underestimates how much body fat they have. That's just, and it's forever going to be like that.
Right. And that's one of those things where I'll have people that'll say, oh, well, you're probably like 2 weeks out from stage. Why are you lean so red? I'm like, you don't understand just how much there is to lose. I'm like,
you saw Dev too, right?
Yep.
Dev's got such an interesting body fat distribution. Like his legs, because he has so much muscle, they look crazy. But then when you look at, say, his lower back or his abdominals, you see that there's more to come off, right? So
I'll have to show you this one client of mine after this. It is absolutely insane. I kid you not, his legs are show ready right now. And his upper body is arguably 12, 15 weeks out what you would typically expect.
And that's not a very common thing. Usually it's the opposite, right? The upper body leans out first, legs lean out last, right? Yep. The classic, the glutes take the longest. So it's very interesting.
Derek Lunsford has always been one that I've laughed about with that, because when people will say, oh, Derek Lunsford looks soft and everything. Yeah. And then they'll turn around to the back and they'll hit a back double by, and his glutes are the most peeled out of anybody on stage. And I'm like, you guys are so focused on whether his abs are as striated as the other people. You're not realizing that he's actually the leanest in terms of his backside.
That's another video that I made, was you're only as lean as your fattest body part, right? Everybody likes to look at their abs or look at their genetically blessed body part when it comes to body fat distribution. But then you have another body part that's holding significant more fat tissue that should be where you're looking to.
One of the things that I'll do with my clients when we start prep is I do like check-ins, obviously, for the visual and stuff like that. Yeah. But another thing that I'll have them do is I'll say, okay, find your fattest body part on your body right now. Yeah. And they'll find it, and I'll be like, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to do pinch tests there, and you're going to shoot me video of you doing pinch tests in that area.
The Greg Doucette classic.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Like, I know right now when I take a look at my physique, it's like I could get focused on the fact that my abs are showing through well, or that I have good biceps. Yeah. But if I take a little bit from my lower back, I'm like, there's a lot
to come off.
Yep.
You know, it sucks to hear, but like, you're always fatter than you think. And the sooner that you accept that and you realize that, it'll be a lot smoother for you going forward. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. How light did you actually end up? So right now you said you're sitting around 178.
Yeah, 178. That's
How
my
light?
average.
How light did you get on overall on this?
I was like
cutting phase?
165 to be honest.
Oh,
so
wow.
for me being 6 feet, that's not a.
I was shocked that you didn't compete.
I know. I honestly kind of just did it for fun. I'm not like the most into bodybuilding now. I like coaching and I've taken a few clients to stage regional shows and things like that. But as far as me and my aspirations to compete, I'm just a nerd. In all honesty, I just like physiology. I like lifting. If I was to do a show, it would be for, social media and stuff like that. It wouldn't necessarily be because I genuinely want to step on stage, right? And I feel like you need to have that want to really get to that next. Like people would look at me and be like, "Oh, you were so close to competing," but I really wasn't.
I would say that you're hard on yourself, right? You especially
I feel like you are too, right? I mean, that's
true. That you kind of have to be
Yeah.
if you want to get to the next level. But at a regional level show,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have needed a lot more. Obviously,
that's-
when you're stepping into, I want to be the most shredded
Oh,
guy
yeah,
on the
for sure.
planet,
I
that's
mean-
a bit of a different mindset.
You got to lean into your strengths, right? And obviously, I'm not at my body weight, my height. I'm not going to be the biggest guy. So what's in my control is conditioning.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you got to lean into that. Play with the cards you've been dealt.
There are many, many bodybuilding competitors that I have beat who, if they were as lean as I was, would have blown me out of the water.
I'm excited to see what Dev looks like.
Dude, Dev looks
'Cause
great right now.
He holds a crazy amount of tissue that, in all honesty, the only people that are going to beat him are going to be much older.
Well,
you know what I mean?
He just did a physique update recently, and you could see that he's kind of turned the corner.
Oh yeah.
Where it was like there was definition coming in, but he wasn't getting the necessarily the. So like when I refer to definition, I'll often refer to something called grain.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the grain
Thinness
previously.
of the skin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could see the outlines of the muscles, but there wasn't texture to the skin. And now you're starting to see that texture.
Oh yeah,
come, and it
absolutely.
looks
Especially
really
in the
cool.
legs, like seeing it in person, crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to see him on stage.
Absolutely.
But all right, main gaining, bulking out of the way. Let's talk about lifting, or let's talk about some concepts within lifting.
Let's get it.
All right, frequency, volume. Let's just bang out a few things right there. When you take a look at your programming,
Yeah.
are you more concerned with frequency or volume, or do you view them as equal things that you have to kind of balance out? What would you say your main priority is?
Is this speaking from my perspective?
Your perspective.
I believe that as an advanced natural trainee, frequency should be the most important thing. And the reason I say that is because I said advanced and natural. So obviously intensity is covered. We all know that you have to train hard. And then when it comes to volume, I'm of the belief that an advanced trainee needs less volume. I know we might have differing opinions there. And obviously that comes down to the theory that obviously as you become more advanced, you have less fibers that you're able to grow. Those fibers are controlled by the highest threshold motor units, and those are the most susceptible to fatigue mechanisms. So if you're doing a bunch of volume, you have to take into consideration fiber saturation and all those fancy things. So that's why I believe having as many of those first sets across the week is likely going to see you make the best progress as an advanced natural lifter.
So as far as what your current programming looks like,
Yeah.
are you on a full body or something else?
Yes, sir. Full body every the day.
Okay. So you're 3.5 times
Yeah.
for you right now.
I mean, when I'm on vacation, things like this, I'll suffer. I'll do upper, lower, anterior, posterior, but my ideal split would be full body every the day. Yeah.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
I know for a while you played around with some pretty extreme maximalism.
Absolutely.
So obviously back then there was, how many sets did you get to in an individual day when you were doing
I was
that?
playing with around like 45, 48, and I was doing single sets. Obviously,
45 different exercises.
yeah, it was ridiculous. And again, people would look at that and think that I was prescribing that to people. And I mean, I owe a certain due diligence to make that clear that I was just testing things and playing around with things. But at the same time, because you have an audience, you have to expect that people are going to take whatever you say at face value and run with it. So, I mean, I do feel partially to blame for that whole kind of wave, but
Every time I heard you talk about it specifically,
Yeah.
I heard you say this is something that I'm playing around with. This is something that I'm trying. I'm not telling you, you need to go do this.
Yeah.
I thought you were pretty good about it, but obviously not everybody sees everything that you say.
It exploded.
Yeah, it exploded. It was a pretty crazy time.
The maximalist movement, you know what I'm saying?
So,
I mean, I do agree with that principle though, like hypertrophy being fiber specific, and that obviously the more that you get advanced, you should take the volume that
various actions.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that principle can be taken too far as we've seen.
Sure.
Right?
And I would assume that you would say, based on your current training, that what you were doing before was more than necessary.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it just got to the point where you're just training things to say that you've trained them, and you're training things like just for the sake of it, just to you know, tick on another muscle action, just to be like, oh, I've trained lateral flexion of my spine. And
I'm not gonna lie, because people would ask me, they're like, what do you think about all this stuff and everything? And I would see other people get angry about it, and that was never me. I was always like, I'm glad there's people trying things out. I'm glad there's people playing around with things, because even if I don't end up doing everything the same way as other people, it's like there are things that can just cause you to think.
Absolutely.
Like there were times where I would see a video of yours where you'd be doing something, and I'd be like, I'd be like, I hadn't thought about training in that particular fashion before.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, okay, maybe I can toss something along that vein into my own training.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I've always done when I've taken a look at people, both bros and people who are going super deep into the mechanisms. I'm like, I'm not opposed to people going all out in whatever category they do.
Yeah.
And then I feel there is something that you can garner and something you can learn from those individuals. Like
it's just could be a little dangerous when you go too far off the deep end, right? Like,
sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like you talked about one of your main inspirations being JP. And JP would obviously train very, very different from you.
Yeah. I mean, I have a video where, because obviously the flaps, I don't know if you were going to talk about that, but the flaps kind of went...
The flaps, we have to talk about the flaps.
The flaps kind of went viral. It went a little bit crazy. And I never claimed to create the exercise.
The Kenan flaps.
I never claimed to create the exercise. I just posted a video about it. It got some wind. People slapped my name in front of it. I'll take it. I'll take it because it definitely helped me out. But that kind of that was worldwide. Worldwide.
Oh, it went crazy.
And JP, obviously one of my biggest inspirations, he would, like a lot of those guys from the UK, they'd hate the science-based, you know what I'm saying? So he saw like people posting about it and kids doing that. And I think he made a video or a story about it. And I like replied to that story with a stiff leg deadlift and said, oh, I'm sorry or whatever. And he followed me. And that was, I don't usually go crazy when people follow me, but that one was like,
I still fangirl over random interaction stuff.
Oh yeah.
I remember at the one point in one of his videos, he had made a video about basically calling out science-based lifters in general. And somebody mentioned me in his comments and said, oh yeah, so you don't like TNF. And then he was like, no, I think TNF trains really hard. And so like, I was like,
oh yeah,
JP said that about me? Oh no, I fangirl over stuff like that all the time.
You have to. I mean, to me, he's the guy that got this all started for me. And that's kind of crazy to think because of all the stuff that I do now. But at the end of the day, like I was running push-pull arms legs for probably 3 or 4 years. And that's kind of how I built a majority of my muscle. And then I've only been running full body for, I want to say 16 months, something like that. Would I go back? Definitely not. But it just goes to show that the differences are not that significant. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I have people will come to me and they'll assume because I'm the full body guy that's all I give out. Now I do prefer to program full body.
Sure.
But because obviously everyone has their own preferences when it comes to programming and whatnot, but I'm not reluctant to seeing that 2 times a week frequency is not the end of the world. And like we talked about before, adherence, consistency, effort being the most important things, right?
Yeah, I have very often people will come to me and they'll basically be worried about everything that they're doing wrong and not the things they're doing right.
That's like neurotic behavior. And essentially that kind of stems from the whole, what did you call it again? Content creator based and like pedanticism. I saw your video about that and I completely agree. 100%.
No, it's always fun talking with you because I know your overall disposition towards people going overboard and thinking about things that don't necessarily matter for their particular situation.
It's like,
but then people assume that you're the person who's going to be bringing the hammer down on every single little variable.
Come on, I mean, the whole like preacher curl, not training your biceps, as if we haven't had thousands of natural bodybuilders do these, even the most suboptimal exercises, but show up with amazing physiques, because at the end of the day, your muscle mass is going to be governed by your genetic potential. It's not going to be governed by if you do a Bayesian curl plus preacher curl plus reverse curl every other day, right? So, I mean, do I believe that that's the best possible thing that you could do in order to reach your genetic ceiling fastest? Sure, but it's the differences that I just don't.
Well, I think one of the things that people fail to understand is their whole thing is, okay, well, you shouldn't be training in this particular format because it's a waste of time. Like, you could do something else. And the way that I've always viewed it is this: the more specific you have to be, the better results you're going to get for an individual thing. So if somebody told me, hey, your goal is to grow your elbow flexors, only your elbow flexors to the best of your abilities, am I really only going to be doing like 2 exercises for the elbow flexors if I know that that's my only goal? Probably not.
Yeah, because I'm probably diversify your volume.
Exactly. I'm going to take and I'm going to say, okay, there's probably different ways I could be moving, different angles that I could have my humerus, like, and it's going to make more sense because I'm so specifically focused on that.
And I mean, like, at the end of the day, the exercise science field is still so young that we just don't have the answers. So it leads people to being more theoretical, to being more experimental. So I feel like you need it. But at the same time, it always leads to people just going a little bit too far. And like I mentioned, if I make a video about something, you got to expect someone takes that idea at face value or maybe twists it a little bit, and then it's kind of like that game of telephone.
Yeah. So then I guess I would ask you, if you're taking a look at this overall, let's say you had to build out a simplistic, overall, great 3.5 day program for anybody.
Yeah.
What would that look like for you?
Like exercise to exercise?
Yeah.
And this is basing it on advancement or just...
So let's say we're dealing with just an intermediate. We'll go halfway.
I like that. So we'll start with the order. I prefer to start with upper and then going to lower, just because I find that lower body movements are a little bit more cardiovascularly demanding, right? So I'll start with a chest press, like a wider grip chest press. We'll train the whole chest, and then we'll go into a narrow grip shoulder press. It's going to bring in some of those fibers that flex the shoulder for your upper chest, also going to hit your front delts. And then we'll do a lateral raise. That's going to hit your entire pushing muscles. And then after that, we'll go with the push down. Any cable push down. You don't have to overthink it. It could be single arm, dual arm, whatever. I like the Poliquin push down. That's been my favorite. And then, so I said lateral raise, right? Chest press, shoulder press, lateral raise, push down. That's it for pushing. For back, I'm of the belief that you should do a frontal plane and sagittal plane movement.
I do the same.
It's like, it's such a ridiculous argument.
I can understand both people's arguments.
I can too.
But the way I've always said it to people is, if I'm unsure,
just do both.
I'm going to hedge my bets.
Just do both.
Yeah.
I mean, the same people that say you don't need both, they'll say to do more volume. So it's like, just do both. So
people want to be ahead rather than just saying, you know what, let's make sure that we've got things covered.
It's arguing to be right versus arguing to actually help people. So then we'll go with lats, simple frontal plane, sagittal plane. It's fancy, just wide grip, narrow grip. It could be a narrow grip pull down or a narrow grip row. I'm of the belief that the narrow grip pull down and row will train your rear delts.
It does train them well.
Fantastic. I don't believe that you need a rear delt isolation.
That's just because he has good rear delts. it's all. No,
and then I'm gonna have to go with Kelso shrugs. I'm team Kelso.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of upper back rows, although I've been training for over a decade, so I've had my fair share of upper back rows, barbell rows, things like that. And then just your preacher curl. And then that covers your entire upper body, pretty much. I mean, you could play around. You said intermediate. You could play around with different exercise selection, but that kind of covers your whole upper body. And then when it comes to legs, we're going to go with a seated leg curl, right? It's probably the best hamstring movement that you can do. I like a barbell 45. If you can set it up, it's probably one of the hardest things to set up in most gyms, because you either have like too little range of motion, or it's just annoying to kind of set it up. So people grab plates. I don't really like grabbing plates.
All right. So for the viewers, assuming they couldn't get a solid setup for that, what would be your replacement?
Barbell or Smith machine stiff leg rack pull. And
rack pull?
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of necessarily doing full range of motion hinges. I do believe that shortening the range of motion and sticking to that kind of top half is really going to benefit you from just your hamstrings point of view. I do think that your adductor magnus is a massive muscle.
But what about your erectors?
You're still going to get some erectors. That's another one. That's another one too.
I like doubling up with the erector work by going a little bit further.
You could, like for me, for instance, I would like to do like a barbell SLDL for erectors plus like adductor magnus, and then do a barbell 45 and the barbell 45.
Oh, you'd do both in the same session?
Yeah, but the thing is with the barbell 45, it's like shorter range of motion and I dead stop on the floor, so there's not much lower back involvement, so I can kind of recover from it. But back to the plan, we'll go seated leg curl, and then we'll do a barbell 45 that covers your hamstrings, and then we'll go with a leg extension. I mean, come on, you got to.
Yeah,
and then,
of course,
my favorite squat pattern, because I do believe that you should be squatting if you want. I feel like
let's make sure there's no confusion. Kenan says squat pattern good.
I do believe you should put a squat pattern in. So we're gonna go leg extension. I like pendulum squat. That's my favorite.
Nice.
And then we're gonna go with an adductor machine, because I feel like that's incredibly underrated. That's a JP.
Yes.
That's something I got from him. This guy's like doing 8 plates on the gym pin.
Between my first and second show,
Yeah.
there was a noticeable difference in my adductors because I had never trained them isolated before, and I started doing it. Helped so much.
Absolutely. And then, guys, we got to train our glutes. What are we doing, right? So some version of a thrust, any hip thrust machine, you could do the Smith. I know it sucks because it's like a short range of motion. The external moment arm length is not too long, so you got to put on a million plates, but just get it done. You know what I mean? So we'll do that. And then just straight leg calves. You could do straight leg calves on the leg press. If you wanted to take that squat pattern instead of the pendulum squat, you could do the leg press and then do the calf raise right after. Save yourself some time. And then that's pretty much it.
Hey, and there you go. And we are out of time, unfortunately. I had so many more questions that I wanted to ask Ian, so we'll have to have him on for part 2.
We'll run it back.
But we definitely got to label this like Kenan gives us the ultimate full body day. Because, he's going to be like, well, is it specific on this circumstance?
A little bit of nuance.
But we got to clickbait you, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the segment. Bulking, main gaining, whatever you want to call it. Guys, do things that make sense in order to make sure that you are maximizing muscle while minimizing your fat gain. Do things that make sense in order to make sure you're training the joint actions that you need. And
be
then
patient. Just be patient.
Just
relax.
Progress takes time.
Relax.
And nobody knows that better than the gym monks.
Absolutely.
So as always, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. TNF and
Kenan out.